Hey guys, I don't know if you can see me past these massive harvests of cucumbers, but I just wanted to jump on and talk to you guys about cucumbers today because I came out after 2 very rainy days in the garden, which was wonderful and was really needed because we had been struggling with many weeks of not very much rain. And I came out to this harvest of cucumbers. Now, this happened in 2 days. These huge massive cucumbers. I'm growing pickling cucumbers, so they're supposed to be like even this is big, really more this size for pickling, but you can still eat them when they're larger. They'll just be sometimes like this one. I probably, if I cut it open, it's gonna have a little bit of a gap in the middle, but you can still eat them. It's no problem. Also, check out this huge zucchini. So what happens when you have rainy days in the garden and don't come and harvest. So I just wanted to give you, I think I have 4 tips for you today on cucumbers and what I did this year to be successful. So let me show you my cucumber plants. So this is 4 cucumber plants in a 12-foot raised container, really, because there's only a foot of soil here. And again, I'm getting this type of harvest every 2 days off of just 4 plants. So my first tip would be soil. Always make sure that you have really good soil. We made this bed new this year, and like I said, it's only a foot deep, which is obviously plenty for these beautiful cucumber plants. And I used my container mix. And what that is a third peat moss, a third compost, and a third vermiculite. The peat moss helps with water retention, which is also really important for cucumbers, so we'll get to that. The vermiculite helps with aeration and allows the roots to easily get through the soil. And then compost is obviously nutrition for the plants. So that's my container mix, and I use that in all of my containers that I do pretty consistently. It's something that's easy to remember, and if you use homemade compost, it's pretty cheap also, because you can, peat moss is cheap. You can also, I know some people don't like to use peat moss, you can use coconut coir also, which is a little better for the environment, but if you're trying to save money, peat moss is cheap. Okay, that's my first tip, is make sure you have good soil. With that, so what I do when I make any container mix is I mix all those 3 together, and then I also mix in some general all-purpose fertilizer, just a 10-10-10, nothing really special, and just all throughout the mix. That allows, as the roots get deeper, that they can find some nutrients down deep. The second thing I do is when I plant anything really that flowers, so I would use this for anything except for your lettuces or root vegetables, is that I add in the hole, upon planting, crushed up eggshells, which I save, and that helps with blossom end rot. I haven't really had that problem with cucumbers, but I don't think it really obviously hurts the cucumbers at all. A pump of fish emulsion or any other liquid fertilizer, because that's really good upon transplanting a plant. It allows those nutrients to be available right away. And a little Epsom salt I put in as well. And sometimes a little bit of a transplant fertilizer that I got for really cheap, or maybe a little bit extra all-purpose fertilizer, really just to help those plants get established, because upon transplanting is really when your plants are going to struggle a little bit, and if they look droopy, just give them a couple extra days and they should bounce back, as long as you're doing the right things, giving them enough water obviously upon transplanting, etc. So that's my first tip, is good soil, and that's what I do upon transplanting. The second tip is spacing. So as I said, this huge wall of cucumbers behind me is only 4 plants. So I grow my cucumbers vertically. If you weren't to grow your cucumbers vertically, then you're obviously going to need a lot more space. You can just let them vine out naturally. But this trellis behind me is 8 feet tall, and the cucumbers have outgrown that and are already starting to grow up and over and off the trellis. This trellis I made, I just got the wood from Home Depot. These are 8-foot furring strips and some screws, and I think this whole thing was like $30 for an 8-foot by 8-foot, maybe even, yeah, 8-foot by 8-foot trellis. So you can't get trellises that cheap. So, and it also looks really nice when it's not covered in beautiful cucumbers. So if you're trellising them, I space my cucumbers 3 feet apart. There's 4 plants along this 12-foot bed, so I have spaced mine 3 feet apart, and I find that that works great. Cucumbers will vine, and then they'll also send out side shoots also, so it's not like you're just going to have one vine growing up. You're also going to have side vines filling out your entire trellis. It looks a little weird upon first planting because it seems like it's way too much space, but again, you can see that it fills in beautifully. So that's my second tip, is spacing. Give them plenty of space. I've planted them way closer together in the past, and they've all not gotten enough water, not gotten enough nutrients, and I hardly got any cucumbers off of it. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is water. Cucumbers like consistent watering and a lot of water. Cucumbers obviously consist of a lot of water, so you're going to need to water them more than some of your other plants in your garden. This is an example of what could happen with inconsistent watering. This also could have been inconsistent pollination, and it's still completely edible, but obviously it doesn't look super pretty. So for cucumbers, I really recommend drip irrigation, because with any plant you don't really want to be overhead watering it, because then water gets on the leaves and then maybe doesn't dry, could create mold, fungus, and different things like that. But if overhead watering is all you have, then that's also fine. Just put a sprinkler on it. Listen, it's better for it to get water than not get water. So if a sprinkler is all you can do, use a sprinkler. I use drip irrigation, like I said. One, because I have 2 kids and a busy life, and even though I love the garden, I don't want to spend all my time watering. And we like to go on vacations, and that's usually in the summer, which is prime time for gardening, and it could be expensive to have somebody come and water them for you, unless you happen to have family nearby that would do that for you. So I use drip irrigation, and for my cucumber plants, I use these drip lines like this, these drip emitters. Oh look, another hidden cucumber. Man, I'm telling you guys, I just keep filling up my basket here from these 4 plants. And you really have to look underneath the leaves, obviously. So I use 2, I think they're 0.5 gallon an hour drip emitters. Whoa, look at my crazy hair. It's humid out here today, guys. Yeah, I'm going to my hair cutter next week. Need to tame this mop. I braided it, but anyway, try to control it a little bit. So I use 2 drip emitters per cucumber plant, and then sometimes if I see that they're droopy or struggling, I'll actually come out here and hand water them also. So keep the water consistent and give them a lot of water, and your plant will tell you if it needs water. You'll see the leaves starting to droop, maybe some browning. Browning could also be other nutritional deficiencies and things, but look at your plants, listen to your plants, and just make sure you're giving them enough water. That's tip number 3. And I think tip number 4 is trellising, if I haven't said that yet. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, I'm losing track of my tips. But yeah, let them grow up a trellis. Like I said, this is an 8-foot trellis, and they've outgrown it. So they trellis really well. They have these guys, which will eventually, see, look, this is one that's come down and out from this plant, and they'll just grab onto anything that they can. So you can see they've grabbed onto each other. They've grabbed onto the trellis really well. My recommendation for a trellis is something that's skinny. Really the best trellis, I think, is something this thin. No. My battery's running out, so hopefully I'll finish this quickly. This trellis also works, but the thicker it is, the harder it is for the plants to grab onto it. So really a thinner trellis would be my recommendation. And since my battery is running out, that's all I got for you guys today. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Stay dirty and keep learning. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.